Good morning. Whoa. Good morning. Yeah. In addition to coffee, just kidding. Well, good morning to each of you. We're so thankful that you would take the time to come out to our annual Child and Youth Protection Policy Training. We have a line over here for all of our paperwork, so you guys can just stand and listen as we get started. And also, for those of you who are sitting down, feel free to go ahead and continue filling out our paperwork. You can either, after you're done with the paperwork, hand it to Tammy. I don't see Tammy right now. Oh, there she is. Tammy's waving her hand. You can hand your completed paperwork to Tammy. Or if you're not done with your paperwork, you can't find Tammy, you can drop it off at the nursery desk after you're done. So. All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started for us. Let's begin with a word of prayer, and then we'll get started with our training. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we do just thank you for this church. We thank you for the ministry at this church and from our women's ministry, our nursery, our children's, our youth, Lord. We pray that this hour, as we focus, as we remind ourselves of all of the policies that we have in place, that you would protect our church, that you would use these ministries to point our children and our youth to Jesus. That's our prayer. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, well, a little backstory here. We do take this Children and Youth Protection Policy training very seriously. In fact, we've met for I don't know how many hours over the last couple of weeks, combing through our policy, which is about 50 pages long. We have consulted an expert in our denomination, Steve Collins, and Bob has worked very closely with Steve, and we have asked him to comb through our policy to give us input and feedback, and so we've done all of those things. We've asked for the professional input from men who are experienced and trained, like Steve Collins, and he has helped us to refine our protection policy. Well, usually William is here to kind of set the tone for this morning. But he's not able to be here this morning, so instead we filmed a little video. So John, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and getting this video going. He can be here virtually.
Good morning. I hate it that I am not able to be here on this particular Sunday. On Friday, my wife and I dropped Catherine off at college, and tomorrow we will be celebrating our 30th anniversary. So in between, we have taken a little trip away, and unfortunately we're not able to be there with you this morning. The reason why I wanted to film this video for you is that this meeting is arguably one of the most important, if not the most important meetings that we hold every year at Valley. The child protection policy is vitally important to the safety of our children, and we have worked on this tirelessly over the past few years to make it better and better. Over the years of our church, over 13 years, we've had a couple of incidents that have caused great consternation and challenges with us, and these policies are in place so that we create an environment that is a place where predators do not want to be. We want to put up big flashing no signs, big stop signs, if you will, to create a safe environment. Of course, this fits very well with our views, Reformed theology, our covenantal theology, in that the children and the next generation are so vitally important. It's why we baptize babies, that they're a part of our family, and so we want to do things that are very, very safe for our children. So I encourage you to listen well, to take heed of all the things that we discuss. They are for their safety and for your safety. Otherwise, thank you for being here. Thank you for serving our church. We cannot do God's work without people like you that are invested in our nursery, in our children's ministry, in our youth ministry. And I'm so excited about this upcoming ministry year and glad that you're going to be a part of it.
All right, well, just to echo William, we are so thankful for your commitment. If you're here, that means that you serve in some capacity, whether it's in the nursery or children's worship or youth or vacation Bible school. So we're thankful for that. We're committed to being creating a safe place where our children can learn to follow Christ together. Well, I just want to go over some general information, and there is some redundancy built into this presentation, and that's purposeful. But first of all, I just want you to know that all of the background, or all of the volunteers that work with our children and youth ministry have been background checked. They've filled out an application, and they've been trained on all of our policies and emergency preparedness procedures. And so that's important, especially as visitors come in to our church. It's important for our church to be known as a safe place where they can drop their child off in the nursery. So that's just a little bit of background information. William mentioned that we desire in these policies to basically put a sign out in front of this church that says stop, a sign that would help to prevent any predators from coming into our midst. But we know that sin exists in the church, and so we have these policies in place to protect us. So the first that we have is a 2-adult rule. These are 2 non-related adults should be in each area at all times. So there's never a time when there's just one adult in our nursery, or there's never a time where there's just one adult with a group of children. We're very intentional to have 2 non-related adults in each of these areas. We'll talk a little bit more about discipline, but one of our values as a family ministry team is partnering with parents. And so discipline is one of the ways that parents disciple our children. So if you are working in children's worship and you have a child that is got the wiggles and maybe he or she is not listening after being redirected, we have really a team of volunteers for children's worship. So usually the first thing that happens is just that proximity. And so an adult will actually sit beside that child, or sometimes in between 2 children, or we can always go and get the parents, but there is no physical punishment, no harsh words. Discipline is the purpose of discipleship, and so we seek to partner with parents in discipling our children that way. Also, Betsy is going to come a little later and define some difficult words for us so that we're all on the same page, but children and youth should not be touched in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable. It's acceptable to give a pat on the back, a high five, a fist bump, a hug, but there's a difference between a hug and a sort of a consoling hug that perhaps is appropriate for parents, but not a volunteer in our youth ministry or children's ministry. If we have special events like Vacation Bible School or Parents Night Out or something like that, we ask that you don't take pictures of our children as a part of their annual form that they fill out for our family ministry team. They can actually check whether or not they are comfortable with posting these pictures on our church's website or our social media, and some parents don't want pictures of their children posted online, and we have a list of those parents. We know who they are, and perhaps you don't know who they are, so we ask that you just don't take pictures of our children when you're volunteering. And also, we have something called an incident report, or not just an incident report, but any suspected incident. If you are discerning that something's off, you hear a conversation, you see something, you hear something, please report it to the ministry leader. We are mandatory reporters in the state of Alabama. We keep this information confidential, but it's important that you report not only an incident that occurred, but a suspected incident. Perhaps we know a piece of the puzzle that you're not privy to, so it's important that we have all that information as we care for our children and youth. And each of you should have received a copy of our volunteer code of conduct. I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but one of the questions that we do ask of all of our members at Valley, when you join our church, our denomination, one of the questions is, do you, and I'm going to butcher the answer now, but do you promise to live in humble reliance upon the Holy Spirit, to live in a way that, you get it. But so there's we are going to live out our faith in such a way. And so this code of conduct, it goes through just some appropriate and inappropriate things around our children and our youth ministry. So we ask that you read through that in its entirety. And there's actually, even though there is not a place on this form to sign it, we do ask that, am I correct in this? Sign it, and then this is one of the forms that you will turn back into Tammy. So you'll fill the volunteer code of conduct, sign it. For those coming in, you can grab some of the paperwork if you haven't already done so, and then you'll fill out and sign the employee and volunteer recommitment form as well. So now Tammy's going to come up and she's going to share a little bit information about our sick and wellness policy, some of the nursery stuff.
Good morning. I'm just going to reiterate a couple of things real quick on the paperwork that Thomas filled you in on. If you have served in the past in any capacity with nursery, youth, or children's, you only need the recommitment form this morning. If you have never served in any of those, we do need the full application. At this table where Cindy is hanging out, we've got those. That code of conduct that he just went over with you, I know we ran out of them, so I printed a few more really quick. So if you did not get one of those, you can raise your hand. Cindy can bring them around, or you can just walk up here. Don't be shy. Come get it. But those are available. We got some more printed for you. Any paperwork that you get done, you can return to me as you see me throughout the morning. Otherwise, after this, there's a green folder that I will be taking back to the nursery desk. Ryan Knowling is at our nursery desk this morning, and he will be collecting those and putting them immediately in the folder. So if you have questions about any of that, please let me know. A number of us are due for background checks this year, and we have changed our background check system to make it a little bit more secure. We're really excited about it. It's called protectmyministry.com. And so this week, if you are up for a background check or if you're a brand new volunteer, I will be emailing that link. You get to put all of your information straight into the system so that we don't have to touch it. It keeps it a little bit more secure for you that you're the one entering your information. It gets submitted, and Tanya Harden is the only one who sees those results. She gives me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or hey, there's more conversations to be had. So that's all. If you need a copy of that, if you would like a copy of that, I believe she is able and willing to print that off for you. But like I said, I never even see that. I get the, yep, they're good to go, and that's all I know. So just so you know, we want to keep that as secure as possible for all of you. If you have questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to, find me wherever as I'm running around this morning. If you want to email, call me, text me, I'm willing to answer any questions you've got. So on to our sickness and wellness policy. Just as a reminder, we want to keep, that's why we're here this morning, we want to keep our children and our volunteers safe and healthy. So if there are any signs of sickness, we ask for the children to stay at home. That is out of protection for not only the children in the classroom, like I said, but also for you, the volunteers. So children who show signs of illness should not be brought to the nursery, Sunday communities, children's worship, or any youth events. Some signs of illness, notice the some, it's not everything. We could go on all day if we wanted to go through the whole list. But main things to look out for: fevers higher than 99. Children or their siblings should be fever-free for 24 hours without the use of Tylenol, ibuprofen before attending activities at VPC. Runny noses, coughing, vomiting, diarrhea. Look, we all have babies. We all know the runny nose thing. You know your child. If it's an ongoing thing because they're teething, we get it. But just as the volunteers, just looking out for those things, and that's where the communication between the parent and you guys, the volunteer, is so important, so that we can decipher, okay, do they have a runny nose? Is this unusual? Or is this, the babies are teething and that's what happens? Other things, pink eye or other infections, impetigo, measles, mumps, chickenpox, questionable rashes, COVID-19 exposure and or symptoms. Children being treated with antibiotics should be on medication for at least 24 hours before coming to activities. Parents will be notified to pick up their child immediately if that child shows signs of illness. And please contact, as the volunteer, one of the directors of family ministries, Thomas, myself, or Betsy, if illness arises after attending a ministry event. So this is just a safety precaution. If you notice the next day somebody's got a fever, just let us know. If we need to pass that information on, we know who was in the classroom and we can let them know. It's not a big deal. But that is, just like I said, I can't reiterate, it's a protection for the kids and for you. So, all right, we are gonna move on. We have a lot of stuff to cover this morning, and now this is one of the meetings we always go late, so I know I'm talking fast. I'm trying to settle down. I'm sorry. So infants and toddlers. Those of you serving in the nursery with our infants and toddlers, just as a reminder, we have 4 classrooms right now. Right now, our infant classroom is on this side of the building. Parents are able to check their children in directly with the caretakers in that classroom. That way, with our babies, there's lots of good communication of, they need a bottle, they don't need a bottle, this is the last time they fed, they need a nap, please keep them awake, let them cry, don't let them cry, all that kind of stuff. They're talking directly with the caretaker in that classroom. Our other 3 classrooms, our toddler 1, 2, and 3 classrooms, are on the other side of the building behind the desk, and there is, at that desk, that's our security. Whoever the nursery leader is the only one standing at that desk. Sometimes they have a helper, and the only people allowed behind that are the children that are going into the classrooms, people that are volunteering that morning. Every now and then we make exceptions if there's a child needs a little extra help from mom or dad getting in there, but we usually try and do our best to help them out right there at the desk. That usually goes best. There are cases we'll let the parent go past the desk, but they've got to come right back out because they're not serving that morning. And that's, again, as a protection for our children. So there's always 2 non-related adults in each area at all times. If someone has to step out, an adult in an adjacent room can observe until they return. That's where those middle doors, the half doors, we can pop those open, especially when we have a bathroom break. And that leaves 1 adult in a classroom, because usually our nursery leader and 1 adult from that classroom will take the children to the restroom. So then we're just letting each other know and communicating between the classrooms, hey, would you keep an eye on over here? I'm down to one adult over here. So we want to protect our children and our volunteers in that way. If there is Sunday communities classes like today, please arrive by 9:15. That gives you time to get settled and be ready to welcome the kids by the time they get here. When there are no Sunday communities and we're just going straight into the worship hour, we ask you to get here at 10:25. Often when there's no Sunday communities, we actually have kids here earlier, so we want you to be ready by 10:30. So it gives you 5 minutes, get yourself adjusted, get your stuff put away, and be ready to welcome those kids. Make sure you got your name tag on, all that kind of stuff. Please wear your name tag so that parents know who's volunteering. That's a real big key for wherever you're serving, to have that name tag on, because that shows, number one, I'm serving this week and I'm here to help. Number two, I've gone through the application process, I'm background checked, I'm clear to be with the children. So that name tag is actually very, very important. Please make sure that you wear it every single Sunday. If you accidentally take it home, it's fine, just bring it back next Sunday. We don't have enough lanyards for everybody. And so the next in is our check-in and pickup. Please, parents only. If you are at that nursery desk, we are only dismissing the kids to the parents. If there's extenuating circumstances, sometimes we have a grandparent drop off, that's fine. We just need the communication from the parent that that is okay. Food allergy policy, snacks, we do not allow snacks or any kind of food in the classrooms in the nursery for allergy purposes. Often our little ones, either A, they don't know that they have an allergy yet, B, they just found out they have an allergy and they're learning how to deal with it, or C, they're about to find out. And we don't want to be the reason they find out. So just as a protection for our little ones, please don't take food in the classrooms. That's why we have snacks out at the table. We clean it off really good. All of the kids, please don't forget, there are hand sanitizing wipes that we clean their face and their hands off with before they go back in the classroom. Make sure that we don't end up with any crumbs and contamination in the classroom. Again, 2 adults accompany the children to the restroom. Don't take girls and boys at the same time. And we use the bathrooms now over here in the fellowship hall right as you walk in those doors. It just gives a little bit more space to not be hovering over the child as they're using the restroom. Give them some security of, hey, we're here to help, but let them do as much as possible. We only take girls at one time and 2 females, and then we take 2 or boys at one time, and they can go into the boys' restroom. Excuse me, sorry. So one gender at a time in those restrooms, and 2 adults. One of them stands with the child in case they need help, or if they're in the stall, stand just outside the stall and just wait, and if they need help, the second adult is standing nearby where they can have eyes and make sure that, everybody's staying safe. And then volunteers, please clean the infant and toddler rooms. I will be updating the cleaning checklist this week. It's not in there this week. So please, if you're not back there right now, but you're going to be later, please make sure we're cleaning those classrooms really, really good. We want it nice and clean for the kids who come in next week. And really, we've got Bible studies and small groups starting up, that we've got childcare here during the week too. So we want to make sure the classrooms are clean and ready to go for the next event. And then, all right, so then we're back to our well child policy, which is pretty standard. It's the same that we've already gone over, but just to reiterate, contact the parents. We do have a thermometer back there in the nursery. I've had to use it more than once recently, and thankfully it's been all good. But we do have a thermometer back there to be on the safe side, and we just communicate with the parents going, hey, they're just not acting quite right. Do you know why? And often it ends up, they didn't sleep very good last night. They're really tired. But to have that communication is really, really important and kind of eases the minds of everybody, because if that's not the case, maybe they are getting sick. So we want to make sure that we communicate with the parents, because especially when you're getting up and going first thing in the morning, you don't always see it until you've been up and moving for a couple hours. So just please be aware. We want to communicate with the parents if there's anything abnormal. The nursery leader has all the contact information for the parents so that we can text them. I'm usually in and out, and I can text them, or I know where a lot of you sit. So especially my parents of my little ones, I know where they sit so that I can go get them if I need to. So just know there are ways that we will get a hold of the parents as quick as we can. Accident policy: if the child is injured, let the parent know, get first aid, fill out the incident report if needed, and let the leader know so that they can follow up with the parents. So there is an incident report to fill out, especially if we've got a cut or a bruise or something, but hopefully we've also communicated with the parents at that point if something like that were to happen. Thankfully, I don't think we've had anything that we've had to do that in a really long time, if I can think of it all. So hopefully we stay that way. Discipline in the nursery looks a lot like redirecting. We are redirecting, we are using kind words. If that's unsuccessful, we can contact the parent for help. Please never, ever, 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 ever any physical punishment. We redirect, we try and talk to the child, figure out where's this coming from, what's going on, and how can we help. We are there to help, and as much as we possibly can. And if it's a situation we need to get a parent, then it's okay. And if you are one of those parents that we have to come get, it's okay. You're not alone, I promise. So please don't ever worry if we've got to call the parent, but hopefully we can redirect and get the situation taken care of without having to contact the parent. But if we do, we do. It's okay. It won't be the first and it won't be the last. Also, emergency response. There are cribs in the classrooms. In the infant room, there are 2 cribs in there. Those are both evacuation cribs. In the toddler rooms right now, they are in the toddler 1 room behind the curtain, and the bookshelf that's in front of it is on wheels, and it rolls way too easy. So shove it out of the way, grab the crib, and get going. The evacuation cribs are safe cribs that you can pile kids in, roll them out, and get them gone. If you are evacuating for a fire, we are putting as many, line up the babies right in the crib, line up the toddlers in the crib, secure them in. We roll them out the double doors on the fellowship hall, which is also why we've started putting cones out there. We didn't have a safe path before, so if you ever noticed, we've got cones blocking off that parking spot in front of those doors. That's why we need a place that we can all get out. So you go out those doors, across the parking lot to the sidewalk that takes you up by the office building and the modulars. We now have the fenced-in area in between the modulars. That's where you're going to take those cribs. That's where you're going to take all the babies, and we're going to get them up there in that safe place where they're out of the way. If fire trucks are coming in, everybody else is evacuating. If you are a parent, do not go to the nursery and try and find your baby. Let us get them out safely. We will get them to you. If you are the volunteer in there, that's why we have the check-in sheets at the classrooms, so that you know every single child you have. You can grab that list, make sure you've got everybody in the crib, everybody ready to go. You get up to the safe zone, and then you check again. Do I still have everybody? That is your most important and best security, to make sure that you've got everybody you need. If it's a tornado, you're doing the same thing, but instead of going outside, you're going to stay inside, and you're going to come. You can come into the hallways. Those will go into the cribs will roll into the bathrooms. You can also go behind this wall is the big closet. That is another safe zone. Otherwise, our last safe zone is also up here. It's just harder to get the cribs up on the stage. So that's why I say the closets and the bathrooms on these sides are the safest place for our kiddos in the cribs. And we'll go over more of that later. There's a map and everything that we'll go over with evacuation. And then if at the end of the day, as you're cleaning up, if there is anything broken, please let the leader know, and they'll let me know. Sometimes it gets fixed right away. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. It's okay. We'll get there. If you need new batteries, we'll get there. Just let us know and set it to the side so that we know what we've got to do. All right. So next up is Miss Betsy Palm. She is our Children's Ministry Director.
first of all, I'm delighted to see so many of you all here to serve the Lord and to be trained in how to keep our children safe and well cared for, and to nurture them and to love them, and to keep others, our adults, safe as we do this. So Children's Sunday Communities starts at 9:30 in the fellowship hall, and the first thing we do is have an assembly time. We gather, all of them together on our benches, and we're running out of benches. Isn't that a great thing? God is good to bring us more. And we have a little time of chit-chat. We sing together. We work on books of the Bibles. We work on Bible verses together for about 10 or 15 minutes, give all of our teachers time to get ready for their kids to come. And then we have the children. We ask for 2 volunteers, and the children pray for our time. And let me tell you, that's a holy ground. And we ask for God's protection and surround us during that time. So we start out by that, and the teachers take their classes up to their class. All of our Sunday community classes are upstairs. The little ones are up above the nursery side, and the older classes, older elementary, is above the kitchen and the fellowship hall door side. So if you're a teacher, you know to be there by 9:10 or 9:15 to be prepared in your classroom and ready to welcome your children. And please wear your name tag. Our blue tags at Safe Valley Presbyterian are our Sunday school teachers, and the green tags are for children's church, children's worship leaders. And this says to parents that you have been trained, you have gone through the training, you've been background checked, and you are supposed to be their leader. So we all know your name, and most of the kids will know your name very soon. But for those visiting who don't know your name, wear this. Wear your name tag. It's important. It sets you apart. There must be 2 adults in each room for each Sunday school class that have been background checked and trained. And the time is 9:30 to 10:30 every Sunday morning. If you don't have an adult, a second helper in your class that time, we have met just in the fellowship hall on the benches, because the nursery desk volunteer will count as your second adult, and it's out in front of everybody. We won't put you in a room by yourself with children. But things happen on the way to church sometimes, or there's throw up involved, and we don't want that happening in the classroom. So if that happens on your way to church, don't worry. We're going to put your class in the fellowship hall. So parents, if you see your class in the fellowship hall, just know it's still safe. We've got you covered. They're visible, and they're still going to have class. The restroom procedure for children is a little different. Volunteers supervise the children, and so making sure that the restroom is not occupied, and they stand in the outer doorway, and as the children go in, they help children if needed. Little girls especially have a hard time with pantyhose and tights, so, let them wear leggings. But it would be very helpful, parents, if you took your children to the restroom before Sunday school or before children's worship. But we will take them if they need to go. At the end of the Sunday Communities hour, the kids come back to the assembly area, and they are dismissed to their parent and by their Sunday school teacher. So we will have them all in an area, and we'll have them gathered there with their papers, and they will be released to a parent only. We really want parents to make eye contact with the teacher and dismiss them. If we see you standing along the way, we won't dismiss your children to you. We will bring them to you. So, and we won't let any child alone. And if you arrive late, we will have your children with us in worship. We'll just take them with us and sit with them in worship. So now we're moving on. The next slide should be children's worship. So if you are a helper and a leader in children's worship, thank you for serving in that way. We love to have these helpers in there. But how this works is that we have a set curriculum called Teach Me to Worship, And every month we have a new unit. And today we begin the very first lesson of the very first unit, Teach Me to Call to Worship. So we're going to talk about the call to worship. And so the leaders and the helpers and the youth helpers, we usually have 2 adults and 2 youth. And the 5th and 6th graders join us sometimes throughout the year. And they are a new ministry that we're calling the BLTs, Branches in Leadership Training. That's what they wanted to be called. So, okay, we did it. But they are learning, they're training to be a leader too. So you'll get an email during the week, usually a Wednesday before time you serve on Sunday, and it has all the elements of worship and what's happening. The call to worship is usually holy, 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 and there'll be all these different, the offering, the hearing of the word, the reading of the word. And so on Sunday, you just check and make eye contact with me or Miss Lauren that you are here, so we know that you're here. And we have the lesson printed out for you and marked for you. If there's any handouts, there's always a coloring page. Everything is in a basket, ready to go. Your name tag, and there is also a check-in list. That list is very important too in case of emergency. We'll take that list as a head count. But you wear your name tag, and everybody meets on the far side of the fellowship hall. Everybody checks in with a sticker and on the attendance sheet, and up they go to the rug. Today, we welcome our brand new 4-year-old preschool class to children's worship for the very first time, so we're excited for that. So they meet at the bottom of the stairs, and they go up the stairs in a single line holding to the rail. That's the rule. If you don't have a rule follower, we're going to practice following the rules for that this year. Hold on to the rail going up, and they go to the rug. Our discipline policy in Children's Church, again, and I didn't say this in children's communities, is 3 strikes that you're out, and that's for disruptive behavior. They'll get a verbal warning. We'll distract them. We might have to remove them. But if it continues, then we will let the parent know, and we'll communicate with you for that. The same is for Children's Church. If we really have a problem, we may text you. That's why we have your phone numbers on the thing to come help your child pay attention. At the end of children's worship at 11:45, pretty much on the dot, Williams stops preaching, and Thomas, make note of that today, you're preaching. The children come down, and they sit on the benches, and they're dismissed to parents. You should have your tag, but we would love to take the receipt of your tag, the numbered label that they have a name tag and that you have, and we dismiss you at the end of worship. Now, if children are running around, they've already been released to their parents, so that's not on us. They've been released to the proper adult. The other children are sitting quietly with their hands folded, waiting. And if you're having conversation in here in the sanctuary, you're being hospitable and welcoming and winsome, not to worry, we will bring your child to you. And with a smile, it's fine. Restroom again will be supervised, and we'll make sure no one is in the bathroom and they can go in and help themselves. If they need help, we help them, but otherwise we stay outside and make sure they wash their hands. And is helpful if your child will need to go to the bathroom to take them before children's worship starts. The job descriptions for children's worship, for those of you who may be interested in helping us at some point, it's really a great ministry, and you'll learn a lot too. But our adult leader usually is the one who leads the children in the lesson. Now, we've got some good pairs of leaders that have been helping for a long time, and they each have their own way of doing things. The adult helper, assists keeping the kids on task, helps supplement the lesson when needed or adds things. They're usually the one that has eyes on any disruptions, and they participate in the songs, the prayer, the skits, whatever is going on. Our youth helpers, oh my goodness, you should just see how well they could practically be doing this by themselves, some of them. They assist the teacher in helping keep the children focused and engaged. They get up and go sit next to a special friend who might need help listening. They help with the songs and the skits. They can take up the offering. They give out the crayons and the coloring pages. So youth helpers are there to assist, but they're also there to just be a mentor and a role model for these little guys. We're putting them into leadership positions, and they're doing a great job. Okay, emergency information. Am I going into this or you? Okay. But you will mention that the fourth Sunday of this month, August 28th, we're having a fire drill. But don't tell the children. We'll remind you. We've never had a fire drill practice. It's time. And so let your kid, we'll let you know when that time comes. So thank you. So it's a secret. Shh. All right, so our emergency information, we touched on this a little while ago. So I'm going to hit the highlights on this, and then we've got a map that will explain a little bit further. So again, in the event of a tornado warning, volunteers should escort all the children to the tornado safe zone areas in the hallways, in the sanctuary, and in those side bathrooms. Please bring your attendance sheets. Again, that's both for the nursery, for any of the children's classes, all of the above. Please make sure you bring those attendance sheets and make sure you've got all your kiddos wherever you end up for your safe zone. So again, those safe zones are here on the stage. They're in the bathrooms in these two hallways and the hallways themselves. Just please keep in mind as the nursery's coming out, they've got cribs. Tuck them in the bathrooms so that you guys can still get through the hallways and onto the stage with the other kids. And then fire, in the event of a fire alarm, volunteers should escort all children to the nearest emergency exit and proceed to the fenced grass area between the two modulars. Please bring your attendance sheets. To verify that all children are present, the emergency evacuation procedure for each classroom can be found posted on the wall, which we need to update this week. Posted on the wall by the classroom door. So if we can go to the map. So, it didn't show up there as well. We had it nice and pretty yellow where those safe zones were. That's all right. So if you see the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade classrooms up there on the top left and the 1st, 2nd, and the pre-K kindergarten, they are going to be going out different exits. If you are on this side of the building, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, you're going to come down the stairs and go straight out those double doors. If you are on the other side, 1st, 2nd, pre-K kindergarten, you're going to come down the stairs and that small door out the back, go straight out there, up the stairs and into the grass area. Does everybody, that make sense? Okay, great. If you have questions, ask me later. And then the nursery, like I said, those 3 rooms and the infant room will all go through the fellowship, all out the exit door, up into that grass space. There's a sidewalk that goes all the way up and around and gets you out of the way of the parking lot. So as emergency vehicles are coming in, we're getting out of the way. Now for the tornado, John, can you kind of show where the highlighted areas are? I don't know if you can, yeah. So those women's bathroom, the hallway, the stage, the storage. Sorry, it's too easy to do that. And then the hallway, men's and women's restrooms. So if you see on the outside of the restrooms, they're not the outer walls. There's actually great big huge utility rooms on either side of those that you don't even know are there. So that keeps those as inner walls. So there you go. Perfect. That's awesome. Thanks, John. So all those areas, that's your safe zone. So if you have questions about that later, I'm happy to walk you through it, answer any questions. So that is our emergency evacuation. And so next up, Thomas is going to come back up and talk about our youth.
If the youth building catches on fire, be on the lookout for deacons right behind it with cans of gasoline or something like that. I'm just kidding. So in all seriousness, Betsy mentioned that we're going to have a fire drill on the 28th, and we do want to communicate that with the parents, and we want it to not be a scary thing for our kids, but that they might be prepared. And so the youth are going to be a part of that as well, and helping our youth help in the nursery, they help in children's worship, and they're going to help, and our teachers are going to be equipped to know how and what to tell our children. There's not going to be any loud noises or anything like that. They're just going to walk all the way up to that grassy area in between the adult modular and the youth modular, and the youth will be there to kind of corral. And so that week, if you're a parent, you'll pick up your child in that grassy area rather than in the fellowship hall. But I'll be real brief about our youth policy because we have some important things to cover after that. I just wanted to highlight two important things, and the first is in regards to travel. So our youth group, we do a lot of traveling off-site. Even next week, we have our big photo scavenger hunt where we load up in cars and we drive all around town, taking silly photos in front of the Space and Rock Center and Bridge Street and all over the place. So we ask that as a part of our annual forms that our parents fill out, there's a form where they give permission to travel off-site. It's kind of worded in a way that it's a blanket to cover all general youth activities. So whether we're doing a photo scavenger hunt or we're going to the doing some of the after-hours things after Vacation Bible School, we always do something after Vacation Bible School, like go to Huntsville escape rooms or do something in the area. So youth should have a form that gives permission for them to travel off-site, and that form is not only permission to travel off-site with Valley Presbyterian Church, but it's also a medical authorization form, and this would really apply to, like, we do some camps out of state, so heaven forbid something happened and our youth needed to seek medical attention, we needed to take them to the hospital. That form I bring with me to give medical authorization while parents are on their way as well. So I have usually for our COE trip, it's our annual trip in the summer, I kind of renew all of those forms. I keep them in a folder. If you're a rising 7th grader, I'll get a form to you so that you can fill one out. If people join throughout the year, they can fill out that form as well. But that's an important, as we travel off-site, and we follow the recommendations given to us by our church insurance company, which is Church Mutual. So we have policies that we put on all the vehicles that travel off-site are actually covered, whether or not it's their personal vehicle that you're driving around and you volunteer for our photo scavenger hunt, which, by the way, we're still in the need of a couple more drivers if you're interested. Or if we have a rental van or something like that, our church insurance company covers that. And drivers should be 21 to 65, so sorry to a couple of my volunteers. That was a joke. Nobody's laughing. And also in regards to communication, communication is a key part of ministering to youth. Our youth they communicate with each other, and they use different social media platforms. And so I'll say this: we encourage our adult volunteers not to initiate a relation or social media connection, but our youth perhaps, well, they're serving alongside of you in nursery. They're getting to know you through Vacation Bible School, and so they want to add you to their social media account, and in that sense, we would encourage them to do so, and really you have an opportunity then to speak into their life. And so we're starting up something this fall, resuming something that we had previously called Prayer Partners. And for our prayer partners, we have a two adult policy for all of our ministries, whether nursery, children, or youth. But for our prayer partners, there is a little asterisk, and you can never be alone in a private place with another youth, but we have had adults that will meet in a public setting with the parents' permission for like a cup of coffee at Grounded, or we encourage adults to attend volleyball matches or baseball games and things like that. But just like in our nursery and children's ministry, we have a 2-adult policy. And in regards to communication, we have a youth GroupMe, which is like a group texting platform. And so all that is saved, and that's a way that I can communicate to the youth. But we ask that the parents are involved in the communication as well. Betsy's really good at this. She's mentored and discipled some of the youth girls, and she'll make sure that the parents are aware that she's meeting so-and-so at the coffee shop at this time. And so we'd ask that you do the same. And Betsy is really good about it because she is very passionate about keeping our children safe and secure. So she's going to share a little bit of definitions that are important for us to all be familiar with.
This is where the older is wiser comes into play, and this is my job. Okay, so most lawsuits, people can find loopholes, and child abusers know the loopholes. And so I'm here to tell you some abuse and neglect terms, because we want to make sure that there are no loopholes, that you've heard these uncomfortable words and things as part of your training, so that you know that we are aware, and we, 2-adult rule and all the other things, that these are things that we're watching for. And it is uncomfortable for me to read these things out loud. It's uncomfortable for you to hear them out loud, but we don't want any loopholes, okay? So how is child abuse defined? Child abuse or neglect is any act or failure to act resulting in imminent risk or serious harm, death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse, or exploitation of a child, usually a person under the age of 18, but a younger age may be specified by Child Protective Services in cases not involving serial abuse, by another child, youth, or by a parent or caretaker who is responsible for the child's welfare. Sexual abuse is defined as follows: employment, use, persuasion, inducement, enticement, or coercion of any child to engage in or assist in any other person to engage in any sexually explicit conduct or any simulation of such conduct for the purpose of producing visual depiction of such conduct, or rape in cases of caretaker or interfamiliar relationships, statutory rape, molestation, prostitution, or other form of sexual exploitation of children or incest with children. There are many signs of child abuse. Any one sign may not mean anything, but if there are a number of signs, or if they occur frequently, you may suspect maltreatment. Signs can be physical, emotional, sexual, as in the following examples: physical, bruises, welts, burns, frequent injuries always explained as an accident, wearing concealing clothing to hide injuries, frightened, seeking affection from any adult, being unpleasant, hard to get along with. Emotional is being apathetic, depressed, withdrawn, passive, seemingly over-anxious when faced with new situations or people, being disorganized, distrustful, being rigidly compulsive, taking on adult roles and responsibilities, throwing tantrums or seemingly impulsive, defiant, aggressive, self-destructive, being fearful or hyper-alert, showing a lack of creativity and exploration. And sexual is having torn or stained underclothing, experience pain or itching in the genital areas, having an STZ or STD, withdrawn or engaging in fantasy or baby-like behavior, having a poor relationship with other children, being unwilling to participate with other children, stating that he or she has been sexually assaulted, or acting like an adult and not a child. Okay, Father God, protect us from all that. Wouldn't I know a child abuser if I saw one? Well, false assumptions that we make. We assume it will happen to someone else. We assume that we're safe. We assume that we would recognize a child abuser. We would assume that child abusers exist only in certain social and economic demographics. The profile of a child abuser. They are more than 80% of the time is someone known to the victim. Predator can become a member of a church. They deliberately target churches. The usual offender is between 20 and 30 years old. Some sex offenders begin their activity before the age of 18. Most are men, but some are women. Predators are often married and have children, and they come from every economic and social demographic. How do I minister to a child who's been abused or neglected? As a children's ministry worker, you are an important part of the healing and the redemption process for any child or adult in our care who's been abused or neglected. You pray for them when you're working with them, that they will know that this place is safe and secure and they are loved. Speak to the children with integrity. They will open up to you if they can trust you. If he wants to tell you something and you promise not to tell someone, you say, I want to hear what you have to say, but I can't promise that I can keep it a secret. So you report something if they tell you something in trust. Remember that children don't always tell the truth, and it's our responsibility to listen and report what was stated. You may end up saving the life of a child. If any child has been abused and we do know about it and action is being taken, there are a few things to remember when working with this child. Don't force them to talk about it. It's very painful, and retelling the story can be hard. Report to the staff member in charge, nursery, children, youth, and a member of the session each time a child brings up an incident or an assault or an abuse of any form. At the same time, keep in mind it's our responsibility to report any abuse to Child Protection Services. We'll have lots of patience and understanding, and we will show lots of love and care for the child and that family. Never fear that our session will be making sure to be providing that. You may not know what that looks like, but they trust them to take care of that. Okay, what happens if a child touches you inappropriately? Well, first of all, remain calm. Was it an accident or is it on purpose? Redirect the child appropriately. Keep your hands to yourself. Put your hands in your pockets. Take the child aside and explain the good touch, bad touch if you feel like it was on purpose. And we do not touch areas covered by a swimsuit. Take into account the age of the child, and you should be able to talk about inappropriate touching with children ages 3 and older. For abused children, inappropriate touch seems normal to them. So they may be doing it to gain attention or see what kind of response they're getting. Notify a staff member and charge and a member of the session immediately after that. Can I guard myself from accusation? Well, while appropriate physical contact with children is an effective form of communication. So here are some things to help remind you. Always remain in sight of open adults. Always make sure that you're protected with 2 adults in each room. So what's appropriate for nursery, holding, rocking, sitting in the lap, diapering, sitting with helping them with the potty, is not appropriate for school-age children. So follow the restroom guidelines. Only touch children in safe areas. That's the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the upper back, or pats on the head. Never touch a child in any area that is considered private or personal. So unless you're changing a diaper or helping a child in the potty. Appropriate physical touch with school-age children includes high fives and fist bumps and side hugs and pats. So, and don't touch a child out of frustration or anger because they may feel that that is physical discipline, and that is not We don't do that here, and it's not appropriate means of correcting someone's child. So if you suspect a child has been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, you alert the staff member in charge of the program, Tammy, Betsy, Lauren, and Thomas. Give them the information that you have. Don't attempt to substantiate any of the allegations. The authorities will do that. Don't be afraid to speak up. We are a safe place, but law enforcement will come in if needed. Do not discuss the situation with anyone other than the proper authorities. We don't do gossip. We don't want anybody to know what somebody else said. And don't discuss this with the alleged abuser. It may compromise a legal investigation that the authorities will take care of. And if it turns out to be a false accusation, there's shame involved there. So who is required to appoint child abuse and neglect? Hearing, witnessing, suspecting. A mandatory reporter is someone who by law must report it to the police or child protection program. We are all mandatory reporters. And they were designed by the laws of the state of Alabama. All hospitals, clinics, sanitariums, doctors, physicians, surgeons, medical examiners, coroners, dentists, osteopaths, optometrists, chiropractors, podiatrists, nurses, school teachers, officials, peace officers, law enforcement officers, pharmacists, social workers, daycare workers, or employees, mental health professions, member of the clergy as defined by Rule 505 of the Alabama Rules of Evidence. Oh, Zach, I need you to help me with this. Or any other person called upon to render aid or medical assistance to any child when the child is known to be or suspected to be a victim of child abuse or neglect shall be required to report or cause a report to be made orally, either by phone or direct communication, immediately followed by a written report to the duly constituted authority. That is taken from the, I quoted all that. So these people should contact the local child protection services or law enforcement agency where the incident reportedly occurred. So there's that. Non-mandatory reporters should contact the staff member in charge of the program and a member of the session, so they will give guidance. So if you're a mandatory reporter, you contact us and we will do this together. So abuse is harm or threatened harm to a child's health or welfare. Neglect is maltreatment or negligent treatment, including failure to provide food, medical treatment, supervision, clothing, or shelter. A child is a person under the 18 years of age. And a duly constituted authority is the chief of police or municipality of Madison. So typically a report must be made when the reporter suspects or has reasons to believe a child has been abused or neglected. For more information and more details and legal ease, please contact a church staff member. Whew. Okay. We're done. That's hard. Thank you.
Every year, I'm so thankful that she's the one who does all that, because that's hard stuff, man. All right, so we are in closing. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here today. Thank you for volunteering with our children and with our youth. Just a couple of side notes really quick. Our protection policy, we update on an annual basis, and so the family ministry staff, we started going through it in the last, what was that? I guess it was about 2 weeks ago we started going through it. So we are in the midst of our review, taking it to our leadership team, and it will go on to our session for final approval. I will be emailing that out to every single one of you. It is a very long document, but it is a very important document. Today you've been given a very brief synopsis of that children and youth protection policy. Those of you that have paperwork to turn in, I'm going to hang out over here by this table. I'm probably going to slide it to the side. I'll hang out over here by this table for a little while if you have questions or you have paperwork to drop off. And like I said before, once service starts, I will have the folder that's all going to go in at the nursery desk, and I'll let Ryan Noling know that he's the one collecting them and putting them in the folder. So thank you all again. Have a wonderful Sunday.